Security Halt Podcast. Let's go.
You're dealing with an expert in guerrilla warfare. With a man who's the best. With guns, with knives, with his bare hands. A man who's been trained to ignore pain, ignore weather, to live off the land. His job was to dispose of enemy personnel. To kill. Period. Win by attrition.
All right. Keith Cassant, welcome to Security Halt Podcast, man. Thank you for being here, man.
My pleasure.
I know you guys usually operate on weekends only, but this is a full-time, everyday effort over here at Security Halt.
That's
no days
awesome.
off.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I mean, yeah, some of us have a 9 to 5, so we can't, but yeah. This is being done after hours. I promised my boss that I'm not doing this between 9 to 5 right now. So.
Oh, no. We are not starting off on a lie. He is saying, fuck you right now. He's got somebody on the side moving a mouse. I seen it.
Oh, that's awesome. Luckily, my job entails helping veterans, so I can chalk this up to work-related time. So
there you go. There's advocacy and sharing the programs. It works.
Exactly.
It's mutually supporting missions.
Yep.
Keith, it was awesome being on your show, VET S.O.S podcast a couple weeks ago, and we doubled down. And now we're having you on this show because there's no need to just have one show that talks about transition,
Absolutely,
mental health, and sharing resources for veterans, first responders. There's room for everybody. And today I want to talk about your journey. I want to talk about what path you chose, not only coming into the military, but afterwards, because when we show the human side, when we show what we individually have done, both before, during, and after, it gives other people sort of a timeline, a pipeway, a path through their own journey. So, Keith, before we dive into what you're doing today, tell us about your origin story, man. Where did everything kick off for Keith as a young kid before he entered the military?
Oh God, young kid. We want to go back that far.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I was from upstate New York. Go Bills. But yeah, like upstate, like almost a Canadian. But yeah, no, I always had. I think my dad instilled the will to serve without actively instilling the will to serve. He himself was a two-tour Vietnam vet in the Marine Corps.
Wow. He
He enlisted in the Marine Corps. He didn't even get drafted. He chose to go do what he did, and God bless him for it. But I think just those values and that work ethic and all that came with that, he just instilled those things in me he just took off the USMC initials off of it and taught, and brought me up, raised me that way. So, granted, I didn't join the Marine Corps when I first joined, but he was actually happy about that part. So he told me I was torn between Army and Marine Corps. When I ended up joining the Army, he told me, because I asked him, I said, what would you do if you were in my shoes? And he goes, you know what, son, I'm really glad I don't have to make that decision. You walked away. And I was like, well, screw you then. Thanks for nothing. But when I decided to go Army, he said, if you want to make a career out of it, you made the right choice. Because in his eyes, the Marine Corps was no place to spend 20 years and try to raise a family and all that other good. That's why he got out of the Marine Corps. He's like, I wanted to raise a family. I wasn't going to do it in the Corps. So, but yeah, all that to say, I went a very nonlinear path into the military. I joined the band. So
Nice.
that was actually my when I enlisted, I said I wasn't gonna do anything but the band. I scored well enough on the ASVAB that my recruiter came back and said, you can do anything but be a mechanic. Yeah, he's like, you scored so badly on that. And back then, if I'm not mistaken, they showed you the scores between male and female. And like 75% of the females scored higher in the mechanics aptitude portion than I did. So he's like, you're never going to turn a wrench, but you can go be a linguist. You can go do all this other stuff. And I'm like, no, I just want to be in the band. So
your dad was great at helping you with a lot of things.
Yes.
Learning how to work on things was not one of them.
No, because it was the typical, he was the classic father. My mom would go help your father in the garage. And then I'd just be yelled at for an hour and a half and not learn a thing. You'd be miserable because I wasn't holding the lamp just right. It's
hold the flashlight better.
Oh, I got it. So yeah, I had no aptitude for mechanics. It was kind of scarring in some ways, but no, I joined.
Now, where did the love for music come from? Were you always were you involved with band growing up? Was that your first passion?
Yeah. I started, on an instrument the summer between like fourth and fifth grade. So, it's funny. Everybody would always give band guys, a hard time because we came in at a slightly accelerated rank and all that kind of good stuff. And I'd be like, well, did you start learning how to shoot a cannon at the age of 8 in the fourth grade kind of thing? Because that's when I started learning my job. But all that to say,
sucks to suck.
Exactly right. I'm like, I enjoy what I do in the Army. I mean, maybe your recruiter skewed you. I don't know, but yeah, it was funny. It was always the combat service support guys that would talk like the combat arms guys. They love this more often than not. So, but
I mean, it's you got to find some of us stumble into a job, right? Like there isn't a pipeline in high school to develop your abilities to be the best grunt. Some would argue that wrestling and football's that just helps you get more CTE and TBIs. Maybe that's what you need to be a grunt. Maybe that's why. We'll go into that later. But when you grow up with a love for music, and I have friends that were heavily involved and went into the military, and that's always the origin story. They worked on something from a very, very early age, and they were able to progress and advance, and it was in every facet of their life. And oftentimes, how do you get into college? Well, I'm going to serve in the military. Well, what am I going to do in the military? Oh, there's a music program. So of course it makes sense for them to be like, fuck it, man. Mm-hmm. Let's do this. Let's go into the band. So it makes perfect sense when you're able to serve and do what you love. I mean, there's so much we could sit here ad nauseum and make fun of everybody for whatever job they get. But at the end of the day, if we want to talk about passion and pursuing your passion, let's take it all the way back. And be able to focus on these stories, because anybody can just give me whatever MOS, but you can't do that for the fucking band, right? You can't do that for music. So
yeah. And it's funny because I had a passion for it, and then at some point in my career, that passion kind of died, and my career started taking even more nonlinear pathways. Because when I came in the Army, like it was long enough ago where they've stopped doing this, and they tried to break the stigma, whatever you want to call it. But a lot of folks saw the bands as we would augment military police operation, things like that in combat. So I had a lot of that cross experience of going to the field. I was 13 years in the 1st Infantry Division, so even in the band, like we were out in the field and we were out there with everybody else, getting down and dirty, and I loved that. But I never
knew that.
We were, out there usually we were like TOC security or perimeter security or whatever it might be. And I love that too, because even in high school, I was the saxophone player. That's what I played. I was the saxophone player who was also on the wrestling team, also on the football team. I was that crossbreed jock and band geek at the same time kind of thing. I loved being a soldier first. And not all my fellow military musicians had the same mindset that I had, but I love that aspect. I had no problems going out to the field, and I felt like that's when I was truly serving my country the most, was when I got to cross pollinate my world like that. My first, I did time in Kosovo and all that kind of stuff. That was Kosovo was a summer camp, but I got to Afghanistan, and I'm the battle NCO in charge of base defense for Bagram, the largest air base in all of Afghanistan. And I'm a band guy, right? And I remember that I managed to lay low, do my job for about 6 months into that deployment. And something came up, and I don't remember what it was, but because I'm working with Air Force security forces, military, Army MPs, the battle captains and MP, everybody else is Air Force security forces. And like, it came up there, like, I can't remember how it came up, but like, I just remember the whole talk was like, you're in the band? Yes, I'm in the band. They were like, when they were blown, they were like, we thought you were at least MP, if not infantry or something. Like you play the part well. And I'm okay. I'll take that as a compliment. But I'm like, clearly I'm not screwing up if you guys had no idea that I wasn't, one of those types of roles. But being able to cross pollinate like that, not a lot of my military musician compatriots got to do that kind of stuff. And I'm blessed for it. Got out to Iraq and I was the mayor cell NCO, which that was more traumatizing than being the battle NCO, but that job sucked. Oh God, that job sucked.
Yeah.
But yeah, I got to serve outside of my field quite a bit. Even then, 6 years at the schoolhouse where I was instructing and teaching, I developed a huge passion for that, and developing the up and coming and that kind of thing, the people behind me. So yeah, it was a crazy 22 years and some change, but I wouldn't change it for the world. I got to again lead a very unique, nonlinear career, if you will. And then when I got out, it did not change. It continued to be just as nonlinear, and I was all over the place. So, but yeah, that's kind of the
transition is difficult for everybody, and we often sort of focus on two camps: medical discharge guys at ETS as being the ones that like, hey, let's focus on these guys. You're hitting it raw, as they like to say. You're going into this experience raw dogging it, my man. You got nothing to fall back on. But the reality is it's an important transition and an important life event for everybody. Even the guys that do 22, 23 years, because, and I would say that's when you have a little bit more of the identity issue.
Yeah.
That's really, really affecting guys. You've done something for a long time. You've put on that uniform, you put on those badges, you've gone into that office, and sometimes it can feel like Groundhog Day. Sometimes it can feel repetitive, like you hate it and you cannot wait to be out, but then you're out.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you have to reconcile that idea that you're no longer an NCO. You're no longer a service member. You're now a veteran. Mm-hmm. What was that journey like for you?
Oh, tumultuous is probably the best way to put it. A lot of the gray in this beard is, my wife says is attested to that. She doesn't want to admit that it might be her and the kids a little bit too. But anyway, I love her. But all that to say, yeah. So my transition started out great. I dropped my packet and I knew exactly what I wanted to do. I wanted to do law enforcement. I was going to go, I live in Virginia Beach. I was going to go join the Virginia Beach Police Department. Why wouldn't they want a 22-year Army veteran? And they did.
That's
at first.
For a lot of guys and gals, that's like the first thing.
Yep.
Be of service again.
Yep. Yeah. And ever since I was yay big back with my dad, I always had a passion to be a police officer. Over the years, all these other things came and went, even on the musical side. I wanted to be a music teacher at one point and realized, nope, I wouldn't enjoy that. And I wanted to be, I wanted to go warrant officer, and be a band conductor in the Army band program and that thing, and realized, nope, I don't like waving the stick. And all these things came and went. But the one thing that was consistent was police officer. Not even I don't want to be detective. I just wanted to be a patrol officer, doing my thing, helping my community. I started going that route and everything was going great. And I put all my eggs in that basket, and then that basket shattered. And I was about 9 months from transition when that basket fell apart on me. Basically, yeah, some of my demons got the better of me. And the police department figured that out, and they said, yeah, thank you for your service, but we're no longer interested. And I left.
What demons specifically?
So, man, you're gonna
be as vulnerable as you're willing to be, or not. No pressure at all, my man.
It's not anything I typically am very public about, but it's I had very low self-esteem from much of my life, and I wasn't addressing a lot of the issues that I had. Even in combat, I didn't see a whole lot of death or anything like that. So I didn't have PTSD a whole lot. Granted, we got shot at and mortared and bombed and all that kind of good stuff, but I wasn't in like direct fire fights or anything. So, but that was the thing. I had the issues long before I deployed. Mine was more just the way I'm wired. I'm actually, it's funny enough, I'm getting tested for OCD next month. My doctor's finally, my psychologist is like, I think you should probably go get this checked out. And I think there's actually researching it, and I think there's a lot of it because my anxiety, I've always been, again, since I was a little type, just my anxiety was through the roof. I stress about everything. And so, yeah, when you're wired like that, substances help calm those thoughts. And
bingo. Yeah.
And that's where the police department was like, yeah, we're good. they learned about, some of my practices, if you will, and how I would quiet the thoughts and quiet my mind and things like that. Primarily alcohol, but there were times I was never buying anything off of the street as far as drugs or anything. But if I could get my hands on something,
Yeah. And that's a reality for a lot of our veterans and service members, active duty. Substance abuse is something that we don't like to embrace as far as talk about when we're within the ranks. We like to say, no, if you got an issue, go to SUTC, go get help and, get your shit squared away. But then really and truly, that's not how you help somebody. We have to have open discourse. You have to have an open dialogue and understand that it is within your organization. From heroin to alcohol, it's within the military.
Yep.
And it sucks. I don't advocate for hard drugs. I don't advocate for using, but what else have you given us? And the answer to that is you've given us alcohol. You've given us this idea. And it's been since we were young kids, since we were young boys, we've watched the TV advertisements that make alcohol seem like an amazing thing for men. It's how you relax. It's in every TV show and movie. So of course it makes sense when we experience something abnormal and we experience a life like in the military where you're always constantly in high stress. The first thing that we're going to reach for is alcohol. Yeah. And there's no shame in understand and talking about it and saying like, hey, I leaned on it. I used it way too much and it could have bit me and it could have led me down the same road that tons of my friends sadly have followed. And it sucks. But the only way we change the culture is by talking about it. The only way we push back against drug use, illicit drug use, things like heroin, crystal meth, cocaine, all those things seem fun. They seem great when you're in the middle of, your worst day on earth or for a lot of us, long periods of time under prolonged stress. But the reality is none of these substances are going to take away the pain. None of them are going to reduce the stress. They're just going to create more problems. And it sucks that you had this dream and this idea, and that was part of the, why it fell apart. Yeah. But what did you do on the backside of that? How did you come up for air, so to speak?
That's really where all the gray came from. Because, I was left figuring out what I wanted to be when I grew up all over again, and it hit hard. I mean, what disqualified me from joining the police department is what I turned to for a little bit again, pretty heavily after that. But because, the way the academy was lined up, I mean, I'm still got 9 months of time left in uniform when this happened. So I still got 9 months of service left. And so I had that buffer, thank God that I had that buffer, because I needed every bit of it, because I just went into freak out mode and I shut down for a few months and I went into some dark places and things got worse in that regard. And then finally, it's just something I was like, I gotta do something. I gotta figure something out. So at that point, that's when I started leveraging every single anything I could get my hands on, from nonprofits to mentors to, Soldier for Life, I mean, you name it, anything. And if somebody was willing to talk to me or provide me some kind of assistance or service, I was grabbing a hold of it.
Hell yeah.
And I was at that point, the quintessential veteran that is all over the map. I was looking at jobs in security because, keeping in line with that, I was looking at jobs in teaching because I had that passion, even though I didn't want to be a school teacher. I just needed something. And my last story was actually, I was at an NCO academy, on the SLC side of the house. So, teaching senior leaders, and I loved that job. So I was looking at like leadership consulting, leadership development type jobs. But it's really hard to maintain resumes across all those fields. And so I was getting nowhere. And it was several of my mentors, but one in particular who really put her boot up my rear end, was like, Keith, you got to pick one of these lanes and go for it, because you're spinning your wheels otherwise. And so a lot of soul searching and things like that. I ended up finally kind of honing in on, I think HR is where I'm going to try to reinvent myself. Because at least in HR, there's some, like, you can get like training jobs and leadership development and that, professional development of organizations and stuff. So, decided to go that route and drill down on that route. Still non-linear though. First job was with Fleet and Family Support, which is Army's version of, or the Navy's version of ACS. So, helping folks on a local installation here in Virginia Beach. That didn't last long though, just because I was chasing the dollar signs at first. So I didn't even finish onboarding with them, which they weren't happy about, because I got a job offer with Wells Fargo, which was paying considerably more. And that was an apprenticeship. So even then it wasn't HR heavy per se. They were going to train me and teach me how to be a branch manager from the ground up. I was in that. Well, I was in the program for a year, but I was with them for a year and a half. So, worked my way up to being a branch manager and ran my own branch for about 6 months. Wells Fargo, I sing their praises from the rooftops. They really, truly do value veterans and have a lot of amazing veterans programs out there. And I credit them to just, getting me on the right path to just stability and providing me with something. It wasn't obviously, my end state. But all that.
I want to pause that for a second.
Sure.
and kind of dive into that, because a lot of guys are in that same boat. That's a vast majority of our veterans getting out. They don't know what they want, but there are these amazing opportunities for like, hey, this is not the dream job.
Yeah.
This is not your happily ever after, but you can come in. We have a program for veterans for you to learn how to do a job that will pay you well, where you are going to be a benefit to this organization. The organization is going to be a benefit for you. You might turn around and love it. You might actually fall in love with it. You might fall in love with the pig. You might say, you know what? With makeup on, this pig is perfect. But at the end of the day, this kind of helps everybody out there with that fear. That's the one thing when I deal with one-on-one coaching with guys, there's instantly remove the fear from this program, remove the fear from this part of life. Sorry, no one's going to do that for you.
No.
But you have to understand there are resources out there. There are programs that you can become, you can literally walk out of the military, get into one of these programs and be able to understand like, okay, I'm making money. I'm being of service to an organization. Like this is not going to be a forever, but hey, I can put food on the table. Kids are going to get their shoes. Mom's going to be happy. And now I can still take that entrepreneurial course. I can still go to school. I can still develop that plan of action for that next great, wonderful, forever job.
Yep.
And that's one of the things that people don't really realize. They just want to jump into something and be like their forever thing. Well, maybe the forever thing comes after this job.
Calling all golf enthusiasts. Get ready to tee off for a great cause at the inaugural Krulak Classic Charity Golf Tournament on Wednesday, September 11th at the historic Greystone Country Club, located in beautiful Birmingham, Alabama. Whether you're a seasoned pro or just looking for a fun day on the green, this is your chance to make a difference. Enjoy a day of friendly competition, delicious food, and fantastic prizes, all while supporting the Krulak Marine Alliance of Alabama. Don't miss out on this perfect blend of sport and philanthropy. Register now at krulakclassic.org. That's KRULAK classic.org and swing into action for a cause that truly matters. See you on the course.
Yeah. And I mean, statistically speaking, I mean, I can't remember what it was. Last statistic I saw, but it was like in the upper 90th percentile that you were pretty much statistically guaranteed to not be in the same job 2 years post separation. So,
Fact.
I mean,
sometimes it's like 6 months, 7 months.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, mine was less than 2 weeks. I didn't even finish onboarding if you count that job with Fleet Family Support as my first job. So, I mean,
I wish I would have been able to record that. Just be able to have been there. Guys.
Yeah, he was not. Yeah,
I appreciate you.
That hiring manager was not happy, but I mean, it is what it is. So I don't know if it was the healthiest. I've heard things have gotten a whole lot better in years over the years, but at that time the work environment wasn't the healthiest to begin with. So, but all that to say, and but that was the thing. So even the Wells Fargo job, I love Wells Fargo. I love the people I worked with. But the job was killing me because I am an empath to the extreme. And as a branch manager, nobody wants to talk to the branch manager when they're in a good mood. So I was dealing with negativity day in and day out. And like
Man.
the rest of my team, they got to deal with the good and the bad, you know, the happy customers and the unhappy customers. I just dealt with unhappy customers for a year and a half straight, just about. And
Nice.
so again, I'm so thankful to Wells Fargo for the opportunity, and other people could do the job and they're not an empath like me, but I was taking a lot of negativity on me. So, so I knew that wasn't the end state, but that whole time, I was with them for a year and a half. That whole time I was developing a new passion I didn't even realize I had, which is essentially, you see where I'm leading, where, you know, what we're doing now, because once I landed on my feet, once I got that, even with Fleet Family Support, but more so with Wells Fargo, once I knew I was going to be okay, and I made it, quote unquote, right? I tell everybody, one day you're going to wake up and you're going to realize I finally made it. Journey's not over, but you're okay. Once I hit that point, I had leveraged so many nonprofits, so many mentors, the whole way that I was like, I've got to give back. I can't have taken advantage of all this and not do my part to give back to that community. So I started mentoring, I started volunteering with, Onward Opportunity, is helping teach some of their classes and do some of their panels and stuff. I started volunteering with USO Pathfinders, especially being at Wells Fargo. Anytime locally to where I'm at here in Hampton Roads, Virginia, anytime somebody was like thinking of going finance, they were like, go talk to Keith, So, I was volunteering with them. I'm a volunteer mentor with Veterati. God bless it. It's on its way. I don't know if you heard you saw the email, but Veterati's shutting down on us, but I was volunteering on there. Yeah. They're going to shut down at the end of the month, unfortunately.
Man.
Yeah, but volunteering.
I've sent a lot of dudes out their way.
Yeah. It broke my heart when I got that email. It seemed kind of sudden, but hopefully maybe we start a GoFundMe or something. I don't know why they're shutting down. But them, Higher Heritage USA, ACP, American Corporate Partners, all organizations that I leveraged when I got out. I'm like, let me go back and give back to them. So that started this whole journey and this whole passion that it started to bleed over even into Wells Fargo. So I'm a branch manager apprentice at that. But they were affording me the opportunities to like go to hiring events at the local installations around here and sing Wells Fargo's praises awesome. Because it gets their name out there in a good light. But at the same time, I'm helping service members, I'm helping veterans, and that was so much more rewarding for me. And that journey would continue on through 2 more jobs after that, before I finally found a way to get paid to do what I'm doing. And it's amazing. I mean, I'm in my dream job now. I've had 5 jobs, and it took me 5 to find my dream job, but I'm here, and it's
dude, and we gotta sit down and dissect this for a little bit, man. Like you just your entire journey is what a lot of our veterans need to understand. Like, is it the perfect template? No, not for everybody. But that's the thing about this journey. You don't know if you just quit, if you just accept the Wells Fargo job and just stay there and you never learn to love it and it never becomes your thing and you're always bitter, then you're never going to get to that dream job. You just stay and you're being complacent. And what does complacency do to you out in the field, out in the training environment, out in real world combat? It fucking kills you.
Yeah.
But you need the Wells Fargo job. You need it to put food on the table. You need it to be able to get that income.
Yep.
But don't just sit there and be angry and be frustrated. Keep working towards the next endeavor. Keep dreaming. And here's the biggest thing. The biggest factor, it's not even the job. It's not even that wonderful dream. It's understanding what the hell you want to do, what your dream really is. It's going to change. You're going to wake up one day and you're going to be like, I want to have a podcast, or I want to have a YouTube channel. And that shit's going to change. I want to be the next big Twitch star. That shit's going to change. And I will say, for a vast majority of you listening, even civilians, it's being of service to others. When you're connected with one person or helping another individual, that's incredibly rewarding. That's like, holy shit, I'm making a difference. Keep pulling the layers back. Keep pulling that string. Keep going down that road, and then discover what ultimately is that true calling.
Yeah.
Maybe it is to work with a nonprofit. That's the one thing that I realized. There's a lot of veterans out there that don't even realize that they describe an idea. They're describing this thing they're really passionate about. And then you're like, sounds like working with a nonprofit. They're like, that could never happen. I could never do that. And it's like, and the same person a year later they're working with a nonprofit.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I had a guy. And so this, yeah, you're reminding me of one of the things I talk to folks about. Because if you notice, you and I are both saying the dream job. We're not saying the perfect job, right? Because the perfect job doesn't exist. And that's another harsh reality for veterans is we want to find a forever home and we want it to be the perfect job. And it's like, you're never going to find the perfect job. I'm in my dream job. And so what I tell folks is there's 5 things to love about a job, right? And in no particular order. The first one's the money, right? Which is the one we get hung up around the axle about, right? Yep. The second one is the hours. That's another blessing we didn't realize we had in the military, right? In that you have a doctor's appointment at 3:00 in the afternoon. You just tell your supervisor, hey, I got this doctor's appointment. I'll see you tomorrow. When I worked at Wells Fargo, if I had a doctor's appointment at 3:00 in the afternoon, I had to take leave right and get paid. And it's not a knock against Wells Fargo, but it's customer service, brick and mortar. When that branch is open, I got to be there for the customers. So that flexibility can be huge. But that's only the second of the 5. Third one is the location, right? Whether it's physical location, remote, telework, whatever or are you willing to go where the work is, right? That kind of thing. The fourth thing is the people, which is really the culture, healthy work environment. We're all talking about toxic leadership nowadays, and we don't talk about toxic followership as much, which I don't know why that is, but that's a thing too. And then the last thing is just the actual work itself, the job you're doing. Because that last thing isn't as important to some people. I met a retired first sergeant who handed towels out at the gym, and he was as happy as could be because he was like, I did 25 years. I was a senior leader. And when I retired, I didn't want any responsibility for anyone but myself for the rest of my life. He's like, I hand towels out and I could not be happier. So those are the 5 things: money, hours, location, people/culture, and the actual work itself. And I tell people, what are your top 3? Because again, perfect job doesn't exist, right? You're never going to find all 5 out of 5. But if you can find if you could figure out what your top 3 are, and then find a job that meets those top 3, statistically, you will be happy in that job, right? And that takes a lot of pressure off of service members as they're transitioning out. Like, oh, I don't have to go find a job that gives me the perfect hours and meets all these marks. If I can just find something that meets my top 3, at least to start, I'm going to be happy. And if you can find one that meets 4 out of your top 5, you're really happy in that job. Like I said, I'm in my dream job and I'm in the decimal points. I'm at like a 4.5 out of 5 because there's still stuff I would change. Right? I will argue all day long. I've never met anybody that says they have all 5 out of 5, right? Because there's always something we could change if we would, or would change if we could.
Absolutely.
So again, getting service members to understand that, like, hey, let's just say hypothetically, the perfect job does exist. You're not going to find it for your first job outside of the uniform, right? It's a journey. It's because like you said, it changes. When I first got out, the job itself, the last thing, that work piece, let's say it last, they're not in any order, but that last one I mentioned, that wasn't in my top 3. And it wasn't until I got my 3rd job, which was with the Coast Guard. My first federal job was with the Coast Guard. It was after Wells Fargo. I had 4 out of my 5. The Coast Guard people I worked with were amazing. The hours were telework, super flexible. So like it was telework. I was working from home 3 days a week. My bosses were like, we don't care when you do your 40 hours, as long as you give us 40 hours a week. So I'd roll out, like the days I worked from home, I'd roll out of bed, roll into my computer because I'm on early bird. I'd roll on at 5 a.m. and I'd be done by 1 p.m. I was, so hours were perfect. The culture was amazing. I had 4 out of the 5. I hated the job because there was no work satisfaction for me. And again, not knocking it. And I was for the Coast Guard, I was a C school scheduler, which in the Army language, I was an ATARS manager. So you know how boring that can be.
Yep. So immediately no.
Exactly. So, but he got my foot in the federal door, which was also, I wanted to go back to the federal
that's
system.
huge. That's huge. Yeah. A lot of guys, if you're not thinking about setting up that federal resume before you get out, start working on that. Mm-hmm. That is, look, and you just said it. You're not going to be in love with the job, but it will 90% of the time, you're going to get great pay. You're going to be working around some good people, and you can use that. That can be your runway into your next thing. So on top of your civilian resume, develop that federal resume, and start looking at USA Jobs or USA Gov. Is it USA Jobs or USA?
USA Jobs. Yep.
USA Jobs.
USA Jobs.
Start looking there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there you go. Because there's tons of resources out there that will help you put together that resume, and then you can start plugging it in. You do have to be completely on the other side before they'll start looking at you. But hey, you already got the federal resume done, then you're halfway there, man.
That's actually a misnomer. So I will, I'll actually push back on that. Yeah, it depends on your situation. That whole 6-month cool down period and all that kind of stuff. Again, I'm not a lawyer, so there's an asterisk next to what I'm about to say. But as it was explained to me by lawyers, and I've been told I can say this from lawyers, is that as long as you haven't worked alongside that agency while you were in uniform, then that whole cool down time period doesn't exist. In fact, for those that are listening and stuff, if you're familiar with the veteran hiring authorities that are available to us for federal employment, the VRA one, which is basically you qualify for it for the first 3 years you're outside of the uniform once you're DD-214. Therein lies everybody thinks, well, I have to wait till I get my DD-214. No, the federal government, we can actually consider you and even select you for a federal job under the VRA hiring authority with just a statement of service letter. So that's where you've heard that term before too. A statement of service letter from your commander. If you have that and it has your, all the information we need on it, we can actually basically consider you and even select you for a job right up until the DD-214 moment. We just can't move forward with actually putting in the paperwork to start the onboarding and all that other, the background checks and all that. We can't move forward with that until we have the DD-214 in hand. But you can be considered for federal employment even while you're on terminal leave with just that statement of service letter. So
nice. And that's exactly how 90% of your supply sergeants get their federal jobs. That is a fact. That is a fucking fact.
Right?
If you fucking snakes in the grass, every last one of you. From E4 to warrant officer, you've got a lock on the entire system. And it's a fucking mafia, but they're smart. I think it's a mentorship thing. Thing. And hell, more power to you, Supply Corps, that it's the one MOS. They take care of their guys, and it's such a slept on MOS and system. They do a really good job of ensuring that they brief their junior NCOs and senior NCOs on every avenue they can get, every job, every resource on the outside.
Yeah,
more of us need to do that while we're in uniform and understand because even if you're infantry, there's this big misconception. Oh, you're just infantry. You're worthless. I'm like, I beg to differ.
Yeah.
There's a spot for you on a federal job somewhere out there. You just need to know how to apply.
Exactly.
And that's something that we don't really cut. And I will say this, TAPS doesn't even do a good enough job talking about the federal job programs out there. So start digging into it. Like I said, maybe it's not your forever gig. Yeah. But there's a lot of good money out there. Yeah. And there's still a lot of telework opportunities. Which, hey, for me, that's amazing.
I'm 100% remote as a Fed. So I work from home. So
tell us about what you're doing these days.
So my journey landed me to my dream job. So I am the Veterans Program Manager for the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, which is a mouthful. So we say CISA for short, which a lot of people haven't even heard of us. We're actually the youngest agency in the federal government. We're only about 5 years old, and we fall under Department of Homeland Security. And everybody gets hung up on the first half of our name, cybersecurity, which that's absolutely the largest part of our mission. But we are responsible for all of the nation's critical infrastructure. So you name it, the dams, the power grids, the roads, the water supplies, right? So we have a large, we have a large physical security aspect to us as well. And then we even oversee like the 911 systems, emergency communication. So we have an entire division dedicated just to emergency communications for 911 systems, police radios, all that kind of good stuff.
I had no idea you guys existed. This is all new to me. Right. Well, it's not really new because I went on your LinkedIn page and But you're right. We hear cybersecurity, and that's the first thing which also a very happening thing for a lot of veterans. They want to be involved in cybersecurity. Yep. But I don't know anything about the other side of it, the infrastructure. What do you guys do on that side of the house? Yeah. So even on the cyber side, we don't own any of the stuff I just rattled off as an agency, right? We don't own the dams, we don't own the power grids, or even the cyber network. So we are largely policy and advisory in nature. So we have two entire divisions
not solely, but primarily dedicated just to outreach and partnership and relationship building and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, like we've got, specialized offices like in chemical security, bombing. We got a bombing prevention office. All those, a lot of EOD guys find homes over there and kind of things. And then we've got boots on ground all over the country. Like every inch of our country has at least two, sometimes more, but at least two people from CISA assigned to it. There are boots on ground. There are ground troops, and there's a cybersecurity advisor and a physical security advisor. They're assigned a region of our country, and they are out there peddling CISA's wares, if you will. Local municipalities, local organizations and businesses, and they're out there building that relationship, building that partnership, building that trust. Because we also don't have law enforcement authority. So at the end of the day, when we put out a policy or an alert or an advisory or something, nobody technically has to listen to us, but that's where our folks on ground are out there building those relationships. So when we do that, people, know to listen, that, we have their best interest at heart kind of thing. Because, everybody says, always trust the guy that says you can trust me, I'm with the federal government, right? So
I believe no one's ever said
that. Exactly. So we have to build that trust. But yeah, so we do have some quasi operational arms to us, especially on the cyber side. We've got the secret squirrel cyber stuff, the threat hunters, stuff. Yeah, digital forensics and threat hunters, and even like intel guys come find homes with us because we have all sorts of intel analyst type positions. All the guys that like to work in windowless rooms and never see the light of day. We've got
smell
those
like
jobs
cabbage.
Exactly. Yeah, we've got those types of jobs too. But we don't have the law enforcement authority. So even when something pops off, we have our folks that respond and stuff. But when it once we've isolated and identified the threat kind of thing, we usually have to partner with certain 3-letter friends that can take that actionable evidence and go and run with it kind of thing. So yeah, we've got all kinds of jobs. And, even my first job in this agency wasn't the Veterans Program Manager. I've had 2 jobs in the agency. My first job I got because I had an old Army buddy that works in this agency. In fact, he was my first NCOIC at my first unit back in 1998 when I came in. So that's how old I am. But he, and therein goes to everybody listening, right? Heard it. It's not what you know, it's who you know, right? And
yep.
I'm a complete testament to that. I've had 5 jobs since I retired. 4 out of my 5 jobs I got through networking. That Wells Fargo job was the only one I didn't know somebody on the inside. The other 4, even the Fleet Family Support job, I knew somebody on the inside.
Networking.
Exactly.
Man. It is one of the greatest resources that's free to you for like a year is LinkedIn Premium.
Yep.
That's one of the greatest things out there. And I know everybody listening is like, yeah, right. I'm not going to get a job by just talking to people. I got my first job out of the military.
Yep.
Because I didn't want to give myself the idea that I could succeed in a nonlinear way. So I was like, well, I'm going to do this thing on the side. I'm going to podcast on the side. There's no way I could be an entrepreneur, so I need to get a job. First job through a connection made on LinkedIn.
Yep.
And that's the story for so many veterans.
Yep.
And people want to push back, and I get it. There's a lot of angry individuals that will say, you can't just get a job through a network. And I'm like, hey, look, I'm sorry it didn't work out for you. I'm sorry it was very difficult for you. I'm sorry it wasn't an easier road to navigate. But the truth is, yes, you can meet somebody on LinkedIn. Tell them up front, hey, I have questions about this job, this industry. Here's who I am. There's an entire friggin' industry of network and transition coaches and people that will help you develop this.
Yep.
It's a cold call. It's a virtual cold bump, if you will.
Yeah.
Talking with somebody within an industry that you're interested in. It could lead to a job.
Yeah.
It could lead to you, hey, come on in. We're actually looking for veterans.
Yep.
Believe it or not, people love veterans.
Yeah.
They see what it takes to go through and become the MP, what it takes to become the civil affairs officer, what it takes to become a PSYOP NCO. They see the hard work that you've done, and they will give you a shot to interview for a position. Yep. It sounds crazy, but it happens all the time.
Absolutely. And allow me to even push back on our naysayers that are listening in from the hiring manager's perspective, right? So, because I like to tell folks what why it's so effective from a hiring manager's perspective. So as a hiring manager, I don't, because I've got hiring manager experience under my own belt as well. As a hiring manager, my job is not to pick the quote most qualified candidate. It's not, right? Because if my recruiters are doing their job properly, everybody that hits my desk could probably do this job blindfolded with their hands tied behind their back. My job as the hiring manager is to find the best fit for my team, the best fit for my organization, the best fit for the culture that we're trying to establish or maintain. Now, not all hiring managers get that, but I would argue the good ones do. And that is really hard to do from a stack of 20 resumes, right?
Yeah.
But therein lies where if somebody else who has clout with me, somebody else who has a relationship with me, somebody who else is a proven fit for my organization and our culture, if they come to me with your name in their mouth, stands to reason you would be a good fit too. And you're now a safer bet, because I say bet because I'm gambling off of pieces of paper on who might be a good fit. So you get your name thrown in my ear. You just got a huge leg up on that competition because I'm gambling and you just became my safe bet there. So that's why it tends to be so. Now, again, people are going to push back. Well, that's good old boys club or that's nepotism. I would argue that it's good old boy club and it's nepotism when unqualified people network their way into a job. That's when it's wrong. But if you are fully qualified to do that job and you just get your name thrown out there and somebody's willing to vouch for you, that's how you build healthy organizations. My agency, I'm paid to plug them one way or the other, but even if I wasn't paid, my agency is one of the healthiest workplaces I've ever seen as an organization. Granted, we're 3,300 people. We're going to have bad eggs in our ranks, some in some spots. You're never going to avoid it all, right? But as a whole, our director's retired Army herself, and she preaches it from the top down, people first. And we do that by finding the right people that fit the culture that we're trying to maintain. And word of mouth, that's how you do it. Everybody wants to work in a safe place, in a safe environment, toxic leadership. They want to avoid that. This is how you avoid that. This is how you find the right people for that. So I'm all about networking. Again, 4 out of my 5 jobs I got through networking, and statistics show that 70 to 85% of jobs, depending on which study you read, 70 to 85% of all jobs are attained with networking. That's huge.
It's huge. It's huge. Before you click that easy apply on LinkedIn, do a little bit of internet sleuthing. Go on LinkedIn. Find who works at that company. Look at your own connection. And then again, if you haven't gone on LinkedIn, it's okay. Start today. Send me a friend request. I will plug you in to any network, introduce you to whoever you want. It's literally something that I love to do. Or reach out to Keith. I'm sure he'll do the same thing. And spoiler alert, if you pause right now, go to the episode description. His LinkedIn connection is right there. I'll put it in there. I put it in because one of the things that you have to realize, if you're transitioning, you have to get out of your comfort zone and be willing to engage and talk with people.
Yes.
Now more than ever. That's the greatest gift that you have already developed from the military. You've been counseled. You've counseled other soldiers. You've mentored individuals. You know how to build rapport. You know how to sell yourself. And if you're an officer, you've already done an elevator pitch every single day of your life.
Exactly.
As a service member. You've already been doing this. So you should be more than comfortable being willing to email or just connect with somebody and say, hey, this is me. I'm a normal human being. I'd like to talk to you, another normal human being, about your organization. It's that simple, folks.
And just be inquisitive. Right. I mean, that's the thing too, is people think, oh, well, I'm asking for something from them. And like, I'm asking them for a job. No, you're not. In fact, you're probably going to hurt your chances if you're just like, you got a job for me? Right. Just be inquisitive. Ask about the job. Ask about them. Everybody loves to talk about themselves. So, ask them like, what is the job like? What is the culture like? Is it a healthy work environment? You can also ask some of those things that are maybe a little bit more faux pas, but like, I wouldn't say, what does it pay? But is the salary commensurate with the industry standards? A question I love to ask about work culture without asking about work culture is, if there's one thing you could change about the organization, what would it be? Right? That's going to tell me so much of what I want to know about that organization. But what can I do to be more competitive for a job like this? What certifications or training can I go get? What do they look for on a resume? Again, none of this point are you asking me about a job. But if you're truly inquisitive, genuinely curious, right, that's going to come across, is that genuineness is going to come across, and you're going to start building rapport with them. So God willing, if you do this a few times with them over a few different conversations, and that job opens up in their organization, either they've already found about it and they're reaching out to you about it, or if you see it on their website or whatever, you can reach back out and be like, hey, this job just opened up in your organization. I'm going to apply for it. And I'm super excited. And I just want to thank you for your time. I didn't ask them to do anything else. Chances are, if they know who that hiring manager is, or know somebody else who does, they're going to try to throw your name out there for a couple reasons. One, everybody loves the feel good story of I helped so-and-so get this job. But two, again, good organizations, not all, but good organizations, I say they have referral bonuses because they understand getting the right people into the right seats, right? So they understand that word of mouth referral. So that person refers you and you get the job, they get a nice little bump, little monetary bump in that next paycheck, which is a nice little incentive to boot. So in my agency, again, just to pitch mine, CISA, even the federal government, we have referral bonuses because, we understand the power of finding the right people through networking. So.
Yeah. And if somebody wanted to Google and find out more about CISA, where should they go? It
is entirely too easy. CISA.gov. CISA, Charlie India Sierra Alpha. Yep. CISA.gov.
And just go right here. We'll drop down to YouTube. You'll see it pop up right there. Go visit them today. Or just pause, go to the episode description or after you listen to it and watch it. Yep. Go to the episode description. There'll be a link right there. And Keith, before I let you go, let's talk about your show. Let's talk about your own endeavors in getting the more resources out to veterans and first responders and our active duty folks. Tell us about your show.
Yeah, so I can't call it my show for sure. I'm honored.
Well, you're affiliated
I know
with the show.
Yeah. But I'm so honored to be a part of it. That's the thing. It really is such a blessing. So Sean Welsh it is his show. He is the founder of the VET S.O.S podcast. And he started it during his own transition. He wasn't even out himself, and he started this resource up. And I've just been blessed to be able to be a small part of it. But every week, we recently switched times. So we're now on Tuesday evenings at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time or Daylight Saving, whatever, Eastern Time. 7 p.m. Every week. We're interviewing a new resource within the community, just like what Denny's doing here, just, putting out different nonprofits and mentorshiping programs and opportunities, just showing service members and veterans what's out there and available to them. Even in the mental well-being and mental health space, that show is so incredible. It's gaining more and more traction every day. And I'm like, I just want to scream it from the rooftops. Cause again, I just get to be a co-host. I mean, Sean does all the work in the background and stuff. I'm like, brother, I feel like I can't even lay claim to being a part of this program because he does so much work behind the scenes. And I just show up every week and talk. so
that's the best
it's all
part.
Him. Exactly. Right. Yeah. So it's all him. He deserves all the credit. I hope I'm not detracting from the quality of his production in any way, shape, or form. And I come up on the heels of Eric Brew, who was the previous co-host. And he's, you met him recently, and he's an amazing individual. Just the situations came up that he couldn't be a committed co-host anymore. And it was his loss was my gain. I got to, Sean reached out to me and asked if I'd be willing to come on board as a co-host, and I was completely honored. But yeah, definitely check it out. VET S.O.S podcast. You Google it. I mean, we're on multiple different platforms, streaming as well as the website and everything. And again, it's just to provide you. What I love is our tagline, right? So don't drown in the sea of transition. Grab the VET SOS lifeline, because we've all heard it, depending on, again, I've seen different numbers out there, but around 45 to 47,000 nonprofits registered with the IRS just for veterans. There's no way you can navigate all that, right? And even as a mentor, I don't know about all the stuff that's out there. And that's where VET SOS is trying to help sort some of that out and introduce you to some of the organizations that are out there, and allowing them to basically pitch, for lack of a better phrase, or to tell us what they're doing and how they might be of assistance to you as a service member or a veteran or even a military spouse. So yeah, there's no shortage of goodwill out there for the veteran communities. You said it earlier, Daniel. Everybody loves veterans. Everybody wants to help veterans, but not all are created equal. And each one has their own niche. So we're just trying to help service members, veterans, and military spouses navigate that sea of transition, that sea of goodwill, to find the niches that suit their needs. So.
Absolutely. Keith, I can't thank you enough for being here today, brother. Remarkable journey, amazing show that you're a part of. Thank you for all that you're doing to help our veterans, and To all you listening and tuning in today, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening. And we'll see you all next time. Until then, take care. If you like what we're doing and you're enjoying the show, don't forget to share us, like us, subscribe. And remember, we get through this together. Take care.